Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Susan Boser, and I'm a water resources educator with Penn State Extension. I've been in that position for 17 years, and I work in mainly the western part of the state. There's not a whole lot of us in Pennsylvania that do just water as far as extension goes, so our positions tend to be kind of regional. And if you're not familiar with Extension, we're kind of the outreach arm of the College of Ag Sciences. So there's an extension office in every county, and we have extension educators that go out and do public education programs based on that research-based information from Penn State University. So today I'm going to present this program that talks about lessons we've learned over 30 years of water well research and outreach in Pennsylvania. And the information that you're going to see, some of this data, comes from two studies that were done. One was a 2009 study from the Center for Rural Pennsylvania and a 2013 study from that's found in the Journal of Environmental Health on water quality and management of private water supplies, and then also some of the different workshops that we've conducted over the years. So that's kind of where all of this data comes from. So looking at Pennsylvania's water supplies, we have over 1 million homes and farms, and at this point I think it's about 1.3 million folks that use private water supplies, about a quarter of our state's population. A vast majority of those are drilled wells. There are some that are springs and cisterns, but most of them are drilled wells. We are one of those crazy states, and I think the only state right now, because it used to be us in Alaska, but I just heard in the last couple months that Alaska is in the process of establishing those statewide water well regulations, but we're, I guess, the only state now that doesn't have those regulations. And in Pennsylvania, there are some local regulations, though, as far as well drilling standards go. In Pennsylvania, the waters that people tap into, our groundwater, are considered waters of the Commonwealth, and it's kind of like the person with the biggest pump wins. So it's based on reasonable use of that resource. But the groundwater in Pennsylvania is that shared resource that actually belongs to the state. So when we talk to water well owners, they have opinions about their water supply. The first thing is that most of them are pretty satisfied with their water well. They're satisfied with the quality, and they're satisfied with the quantity. More than 75% of them would not pay for city water, so they're very happy with what they have. Some would pay over $40, some might pay $10, $20, but like you see, a vast majority just would not even pay for city water. They do have concerns, though, and more than half of homeowners are at least somewhat or very concerned about the future of their water quality, and about 40% are somewhat concerned about the water quantity. The biggest threats are new development, so mining, gas, and oil. And we did some studies, you'll see a little bit later on, in certain areas where Marcellus shale is kind of a boom right now in certain parts of Pennsylvania. So that's really on a lot of folks' mind when they're talking about problems that could crop up in the future with their water. This chart shows, and I want you to look at the kind of the teal color and the lime green color. People are supportive of having water well regulations, even though we don't currently have them. So you can see there, almost 80% of people wouldn't mind being regulated as far as well location and driller certification, and then on down to well construction and well testing. And these are from people that already do have wells. So if you ask the same information of people that didn't yet have a well or that might have a well in the future, I don't know if their thoughts would be different, but people that currently do have wells would be supportive of statewide water well regulations. So we also ask people, where do they turn for answers when they're looking for information about their well water supply? So over 60% or about 60% look to a water testing lab. After that is Penn State and our Master Well Owner Network, which makes us feel good that people know that we're a trusted resource that they can use. Then after that, Driller, Internet, DEP, which is our Department of Environmental Protection, and then on down from there. That just kind of shows, and people could answer more than one question. That's why it's greater than 100%. So things that we see out in the field do indicate that there is a need for assistance in education. I like to call this slide the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you can see there that nice green well is a nice one. It has that sanitary cap on it. It's protecting from that surface water influence and things from getting in there. And then it kind of goes downhill from there. So underneath there you have a cap that has all kinds of little cocoons and bugs in it. The next one there, and these, I believe all of these were taken in Pennsylvania, so these are like real live things. The next one there is a Maxwell House coffee can that's being used as a well cap. We have wells that are buried, and up at the top there is actually surface water that's kind of shooting in to a well there from the side. We have a lovely fence that's been made there out of the cement blocks, and then a cement block on the top. And then my favorite one at the bottom, the adorable dog that's tied to the wellhead there. So practices are going on that indicate that people really do need this education about their water supply. So a little about water supply characteristics in Pennsylvania. The average well depth is about 173 feet, and there's also a big range. So you see there from 30 feet to 725 feet. But average depth about 173 feet. Well yield is generally adequate, and 95% of people report no problems with their water well yield. Only 10% of people have a well completion report. So this is something that the well driller provides the homeowner to tell them about, what kind of rock their well is drilled into, the depth to groundwater, just some information about well construction. So only 10% of people have one of these. 84% of wells lack sanitary construction. And by sanitary construction, there's 5 things we look for to say that a well is constructed in a sanitary way. So we want to see a vermin-proof or a sanitary well cap. We want to see casing to bedrock. We want to see that casing extended at least 12 inches above the ground. We want to see the ground sloping away from the wellhead, and we want to see evidence of grout in the well. So only less than about 20% have that sanitary construction. And of these well owners, about 89% also have on-lot septic systems, and 28% of those people have never pumped their on-lot septic tanks. So I've talked to a lot of people that say, I'm the only person that lives in my house, I don't need to pump. I've lived here for 20 years, I don't need to pump my tank, which is definitely untrue. So next, prevalence of water quality problems. And this looks at 6 studies from 1983 to 2016. So it shows that this is the percentage of wells failing the standard. So corrosivity, hardness, coliform, manganese, iron, aluminum, and it just kind of goes down from there. And some of these are very unique Pennsylvania issues as well. Next, wellhead issues, and this looks at issues with total coliform bacteria. And it's kind of hard to see, but the little red stars indicate high number of colonies of coliform bacteria. Most of these issues with total coliform are correlated to water well location and construction. And we have done some source tracking through the E. coli Reference Center at Penn State to show where these sources come from, and it has shown that most of these are animal sources. So in Pennsylvania, kind of our south central part of the state is our big agricultural area, so it's not surprising that there's a lot of animal sources from there. And this is from our 209 Center for Rural Pennsylvania study. So this, again, is kind of looking at those sanitary well construction things. So on the bottom there, it shows the number of well construction features that are in place and the amount of bacteria. So you can see, especially with E. coli and also with coliform as well, as you have more of those well construction features in place, then the amount of bacteria lessens, and the little numbers, percentages at the bottom show the people that had that number of things in place. So 41% had 2 of those sanitary features in place. 30% had 3 of those sanitary features in place. So as you had more of those features, the bacteria incidence would go down. Another issue in Pennsylvania is nitrate, and this is, again, a land use issue. We had 2% of wells that exceeded the MCL for that. Again, a very regional occurrence, and it's correlated to water well location, land use, and geology. And again, the southeastern, south central ag areas tend to have some of those highest numbers where you see the red stars. All right, next is water treatment. And this kind of looks at the people that, were included in some of these studies, did they have water treatment in place? And 53% did have some kind of water treatment in place. The average cost is about $1,100. Some of those things were unnecessary. So maybe people had a UV light and maybe they didn't have bacteria in their water. Maybe they were using it because it was in place whenever they moved into that house that they're currently in. They just kept using it and maybe they don't have that issue anymore. 48% of the treatment was from obvious stains and tastes in the water, so maybe things like iron or manganese. 32% were from water test results that they received, and their 20% came from a previous owner. So if you look at the different things that people have, a lot of people have water softeners, followed by sediment filters, carbon filters, and then on down from there. So, and this has kind of been the theme in some of our other speakers from yesterday too. A lack of water testing creates low awareness of existing water quality problems. So as far as testing frequency, we found that most people have had their water tested once, 30% have never had their water tested, 20% is occasional, which I don't know if that just means whenever there's a problem going on, and about 6% only test their water every year. And as far as where they go to get their water tested, 62% private lab, 21% a treatment company, which is someone that's trying to sell them something, so that's a little concerning there. That comes from maybe people buying things that maybe they don't need, and then DEP test kits, other, and then the water company themselves. And in Pennsylvania, we don't have a health department in every county that is testing the water, as some of our other states have talked about that they do. So we have private labs is mostly where people will go to get their water tested. So to test or not to test, and this is based on a study from 2011 that was looking at homes in places where the Marcellus Shale was coming, and we were talking to people about getting a baseline water test. So that's kind of what these results are based on. So 20% of private water supply owners would not pay more than $200 for a pre-drilling baseline water test, and that was because it was either they found it to be too expensive, or they thought that maybe the gas company should be maybe testing it for them, as a baseline, since they were coming into their area. Extension has run many free or grant-funded water testing programs over the last 30 years, and what we have found that on many occasions we offer free testing at some of our workshops, and people don't come to the workshops and don't utilize that free testing, which is very strange to me, but we offered 800 free water tests to 57,000 homes in a variety of different counties, and only about 1.4% of people took advantage of those water tests. So we have, even if you're giving things away, giving free water tests away, it's very hard to entice people to do that. And what the problem is indifference. So people just think this isn't something I need to know about unless they are seeing a definite problem with their personal water supply, and then time needed to arrange for testing. I think one of the speakers yesterday talked about, picking up a test kit and driving it to a lab and then bringing it back and testing the water. So the same thing is true in Pennsylvania. People, don't want to take that time and effort to make those changes. And even when the testing is done, up to 80% of people find the results are difficult to understand. Let me go back there. So that picture up there is just an example of a water test result sheet. And as an extension educator, I do a lot of water test interpretation for people. So people might get their water tested from a baseline, from drilling that's going on, or just from a water testing lab for another reason. And they'll send me a packet of information and just say, can you help me read this? Because to someone that's not dealing with that every day, and heck, even for someone like me sometimes, it's very hard to interpret. There's so much information there. So people will get the test results, they might just look at it, throw up their hands, and just say, I can't make heads or tails of this, and they don't worry about it. So now this is kind of an interesting chart, and it looks at, and this is again from the pre-drill testing from the Marcellus study. The red bars show the percent of water wells that failed a drinking water standard or were very hard in the case of hardness. The green bar shows the relative ratio that we're able to identify those problems as pre-existing issues in the water before the drilling started. So the awareness of the aesthetic issues is high, but the awareness of the health-based issues was low. And that kind of makes sense because if it's an aesthetic issue, it's usually something you can see. So if you have iron, you see that your water is orange. If it's hard, you can see the flaking in the water. You can see the residue left behind. But to be aware of those health-based issues is a lot more important, but a lot of people aren't aware just because a lot of times it's things that you can't see or taste in the water. So education of water well owners is challenging and also changing. So a lot of what we do is we answer email and phone inquiries, and sometimes that takes up a big chunk of our day as water educators. We have traditional audiences where we actually go out and we do workshops with funds from grants, and a lot of times we're able to provide free or reduced water testing as part of these workshops, where we'll actually go out and do a face-to-face workshop with people to go out and educate them about their water supply. We do have a state-accredited lab in partnership with Penn State Extension. So we have our Ag Analytical Lab up at Penn State University. It's the same lab that tests soil samples and plant samples, but now they test water as well. So drinking water, also irrigation water, pond water, and this helps to make testing accessible across the state. So we have 67 counties in Pennsylvania. There's an extension office in each of those counties, and those water test kits are available in each of those extension offices. So the challenge with that, though, is just making people aware that this is a resource that we offer. Those water test kits are there, available for them to pick up and to utilize. We've developed a lot of online resources as far as web pages, videos, online courses, and tools that people can use, whereas even 17 years ago when I started, online education wasn't nearly as big as it is now. So that's something that's challenging and also changing too. And something else that we have is a network of trained volunteers that we can go out to engage our target audience. And this is our Master Well Owner Network, and I'll talk a little bit about that in this next slide. So this was started in 2004 with a USDA grant, and we have been receiving maintenance funding every year, thankfully, even up until the present day. What we're trying to do is train an army of volunteers who can provide basic education on proper water system management. So we don't want these people to go out and give people hard information, but just kind of to give them good information that they can then go and get some more information on their own. So we train these people. We want them to provide, we provide them, the volunteers, 6 to 8 hours of instruction followed by exams and certification. They have to sign a policy statement, stating, that they'll present the information that we want them to present. And we want the volunteers to attempt to educate 50 water supply owners annually. Up to this point, we have about 760 volunteers trained. We have only about 230 of them that are currently active, and there's a rapid turnover. So you might have someone that's active in the program for a couple years, and then you kind of don't hear from them again. But the good thing is every year then we train new volunteers, so then some of those people become more active. So there is a rapid turnover, but we do make a lot of contacts annually. You can see there we've had about 50,000 direct contacts over all the years of this program, and that's with people going out and either helping with workshops, or a lot of the times these people will just talk directly to friends or neighbors, just in passing or at community events, so that's how they get a lot of their direct one-on-one communication. And we've had a lot of indirect contacts there too. You can see over 100,000 through online newsletters, radio programs, and other ways that these folks communicate. And we have our traditional educational tools that we use as well. So we do a lot of workshops, and the magic number is kind of 20. We tend to get between 20 and 30 people whenever we do these workshops. And it's only because of increased incentives. So the more free things that you offer or things that you offer people to come to a workshop, the better your attendance usually will be. So free or reduced water testing, but as I mentioned, it's not as enticing as you might expect, so that doesn't necessarily always lure people in. Free for sale publications. So last year we did a workshop where when you came to the workshop, you got a booklet that was normally $25, I think, for free for attending this workshop. Or sometimes we have even given out sanitary well caps that have the rubber gasket to people that come to the workshop. So anything you can do to entice people to come and get that education. Reactive assistance is growing and changing from phone to email. So what we usually find is you get more people at workshops, you get more calls whenever they're having a problem or there's a perceived problem in their area. And this is just a chart showing our phone and email inquiries over the years, and they have definitely been increasing. So now we definitely have a lot more people coming to us via email. And I know all of us get calls where I used to just get calls from my several county area or my region. I now get calls from all across the state, and people have said, we go online and we see your name, maybe because my last name is a B, I come up first, and they see that I deal with drinking water, and they say, hey, I'll give you a call. So it's definitely been changing for sure. So what we have a lot of with Extension are teachable moments, and that's how we do a lot of our best education. So this example is from Wyoming County, and this was a county where we hadn't done a lot of drinking water programs. And in fact, before the Marcellus shale industry came in, we tried several times to do drinking water workshops in this county, and we ended up with 0 people showing up. And this is a picture from after the Marcellus, so again, it was something new coming in, it was a perceived threat that people had to their drinking water. We had 200 plus, a standing room only crowd in this very same county. So these kind of changes in industry, changes in new things coming in that people are thinking about and making them think about their water supply, we definitely have to use that as a teachable moment as far as Extension goes. Some emerging educational tools. Again, I mentioned our Master Well Owner Network. And when we first started doing this, we did it as a workshop where people would give up a whole Saturday and be there from 9 until 3 and receive this information so that they would be a Master Well Owner volunteer. And you can see from the chart, we've gone from in-person workshops to online training where people can kind of do the training at their own pace. And that's not only true for Master Well Owner volunteers, but I see a lot more of our Extension education going to online training and online workshops here in the future. We have a water webinar series that is very, very popular. It's gone up almost double in just the last couple of years. And this is something where we do a webinar once a month. People can tune in to that webinar live, or they can watch a recorded version of that webinar. And we have different topics. Sometimes they're presented by Extension educators from around the state, and a lot of times we bring in people from industry or agencies to present different topics related to drinking water and water in general. So that's been a really great thing. And this just looks at our unique visitors to our drinking water website. So this is just increasing exponentially over the years, as you can see. And shameless plug, I'll give you our water resources website because I don't believe it's on here anywhere, but it's extension.psu.edu/water. And this is where you can access our webinars. I believe there's links to these 2 studies that I had spoken about that some of this information was based on, and then all kinds of publications and fact sheets that you can download via PDF on that website. So please feel free to utilize that and share that as well. So, it's extension.psu.edu/water. And I have some web cards that I brought with me too that I can have for you as well. So what we found is that educated well owners are willing to adopt management changes. And this is from 2016. So last year we did 31 of safe drinking water clinics in 17 different counties. We had about almost 2,000 private water supply owners. We offered 447 free water tests to homes and farms. About 1,000 people completed a post-workshop survey, and about 80% plan to take action to improve their water supply because they attended one of our workshops. So once people are educated about their water supply and about potential problems, they are definitely willing to take action. And after a 6-month follow-up evaluation, 67% had taken action on their water supply because of what they had learned at those workshops. So being informed and understanding, things that they have to be concerned about or things that they need to make changes on is possible, just people need to know what they don't know, basically. And this is kind of a busy chart, but the big take-home message here is that 3/4 of people were taking action to avoid problems after they attended some kind of a workshop. So after they received education, 76% of people tended to take action to avoid problems that were happening with their water supply. So again, this is from 450 well owners back in 2007. So again, this just shows that once people understand what's going on, they do tend to take action to make their water supply better. So our overall lessons that we have learned is the need for education is great. There's a huge audience, again, 1.3 million people with private water supplies. There are many water quality problems, and a lot of times, again, people don't know that they have a problem until it's something they can physically see or taste with the water. Awareness of issues is low, so people don't know that there's a problem due to lack of testing, indifference, or ignorance is bliss in a lot of cases. And largely it's a reactive audience that lacks water quality data, and those people are the most difficult to reach. Education can make a difference, so again, we've seen after people receive education, they do make changes. And we need innovative and diverse tools. So again, our Master Well Owner Network, our mix of online and traditional tools, we still can't forget to have those face-to-face meetings with people. Expertise, contacts for assistance, and then again, those teachable moments are ever so important as far as extension. And of course, anybody that's doing outreach or education, you have to kind of use the moments that are given to you to make those differences. Okay. Any questions?
Hi, Susan, I have a question.
Yes.
The free testing that you're offering is paid for by what source of funds?
It's grant funding. So we've gotten different grants throughout the years. Some were from DEP, some were from the Center for Rural Pennsylvania. So different grant pools throughout the years. And the testing that we usually offer, sometimes it is free water tests where the water samples are sent to our ag analytical lab, so they're sent to our certified lab. But then sometimes it's just water testing that we do at the workshop itself. So we just have meters and incubators where we might test for bacteria, nitrates, pH, total dissolved solids, and we let people know, of course, we're not a certified lab that's testing your water, but it's just kind of to give them an idea of a starting off point. So if their TDS is really high or their pH is really low, then we tell them go to another certified lab and get tested. But yeah, grant funding is how we're able to provide the free water tests. Mm-hmm.
I was just curious. My name is Amber Steele. I'm from Missouri. I was curious. Are there any efforts to get some regulations in Pennsylvania? Are there any efforts right now to?
Yes, there has been efforts. I think for about the last 5 or 6 years, they've been trying. And I know Brian has gone to Harrisburg and been part of some hearings and things before the House and Senate in the state to try and promote that, we do need these water well construction standards. I haven't heard that there's any action on it as of late. I don't know, Jen, if you've heard of any. But I think it's kind of stalled at this point. So the effort is out there, but whether it will ever come to pass, it's kind of hard to say.
And then with the Marcellus Shale, I assume that acts as an aquitard. Do you have issues with, wells being constructed that aren't sealing that area out? Or
Well, and with the Marcellus, I don't know, the Marcellus, the actual drilling takes place a mile below the surface. So the issues are people are worried about the wastewater that's coming back up. Is that going to be a spill? Is that going to impact their water supply? So of course, industry has many different strings of protection that they put on to help to keep during the drilling process from, the wastewater and the drilling fluids from getting into the aquifer. So the big issue is what we tell people is do that baseline test so that if there is any changes, whether it's methane migration or an actual contaminant from the drilling process, then you'll have that baseline information to work from. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Cliff Trines with the National Groundwater Association. I think that's really great, the number of people who are taking action.
Yes.
It's pretty significant. I was wondering if you had a level of detail to know how many people who had a health risk identified in their water test successfully acted to mitigate the risk so that it was gone.
And that I don't know. I know we ask what changes did you make, and there may be some more detailed information on, did you install a treatment method, and as far as what that would be. Brian may have that information. But yeah, I'm not sure if we got that specific in knowing what changes they made, but just so far as they did make a change.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So is the data available on the website you mentioned?
Yes, and I believe, I don't know if Brian's contact information is in the, you could always check with him too, as far as getting the actual information. Now, the one that's the Center for Rural Pennsylvania study, it's really tiny at the bottom of those slides that you got there, but there is a website, I know, where this full study is available there for both of those. Like on the slide about awareness of pre-existing issues, there's a teeny tiny website on there for access to those studies. But if you can't read it or if it's too small, you can email Brian or I, and we can get that to you for sure.
Or let us know upfront, and we'll get the URL to everybody.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.